we have a returning guest. He is the cruiser great, the Phil and Flash, TJP.
What's going on, Eric? Thanks for having me back. We've been trying to do this for a little while now, so
yeah, yeah, since the summer, which was wow. A lot has happened since then. So let's get to it. First of all, you're gonna become a father very soon. How is that like?
exciting. I'm anxious for the first time really in my life. I mean, we've talked about this before. I don't really get nervous or anxious for stuff, but I'm really impatient, like counting down the days for this little fool to arrive. So we're kind of at the home stretch phase where we really want to know what he looks like. So we can't wait to meet him.
That's awesome. What was one thing that you already did that that was first time, like maybe fixing a crib, painting a nursery?
So that's been the thing is we haven't painted it yet, but we started setting up the room for him. And I've been building all of his furniture. Mm-hmm. And so that's it's a unique experience for me that I've been putting together his dresser or his little drawers and his bassinet and his swing and things like that. And installing his baby monitor. And I think the big thing for us was we washed his clothes. We did his laundry for the first time so we can put it away. And it was we're just looking at all these things and figuring out when he's going to wear it, because seasonal and they, babies, I think one of the things, babies grow so fast.
Yeah.
And so it's it's not organizing normal big human clothing when you do the laundry and stuff. Cause he'll be born at the end of summer. And so the first 3 to 6 months of his life is going to be really cold. But the first 3 to 6 months of his life, he's going to be a different size than he will be from 4 to 10 months. And then from 10 months to 2 years. So then it's wow, some of this stuff, we have to organize it for one and done. He'll use it once and never again. So.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sure he's going to have the coolest sneakers, though. I'm sure he's going to have a nice sneaker collection waiting for him when he comes out.
Yeah, Josh Alexander and his wife actually gifted us his first pair. They sent us a pair of baby Jordan 1s.
Oh, I think I saw that.
That's officially his first pair of sneakers. So a parting gift from our rivalry.
And we're going to get to that. I think I saw that. Were those custom? They did the Filipino logo on it? I thought I saw that on your story.
They did a custom shirt for him, and also custom shirts for myself and Arya too. And then they got him a pair of, I believe they're the Lightning Air Jordan 1s, the black, white, and yellow ones. But yeah, that was there. Thanks for the war.
Thanks for breaking my nose again. I appreciate the stuff.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So tell me, how is it living with 2 pigs, which you already have, and now you have 2 dogs? So how's that like?
We joke that it's the zoo, So every day I have the same initial questions, when we greet each other in the house or if I'm traveling or something. I'll ask how baby boy's doing. I'll ask how she's doing, and then we'll ask each other how the zoo is doing, depending on who's out of the house or just who's awake or whatever. So it's fun. It's unique. The dogs are usually up on the second floor of the house. The way my house is set up, it's 3 floors, and the pigs have the first floor all to themselves. So sometimes the dogs will run down the stairs, and they'll just meet each other at the fence, and they're both at opposite sides of the fence. And I don't know what they talk about, but they'll convene there every so often.
Are you ever gonna bring them together, dogs?
I mean, they've spent a little bit of time together, just kind of assimilating in different ways. We're doing it kind of slowly, just more so for the pig's sake, because they've had the run of the mill, So we didn't want them to feel threatened or abandoned or anything like that. And the dogs, it's a change of scenery for them too. The cool thing is they're all the same age. They're all 3-4 years old.
That's
so
awesome.
They're all within a year of each other. but they, they'll run around in the backyard together sometimes for a few minutes. Every now and then, the dogs are small too, so like the pigs can't really keep up with them.
Mm-hmm.
So every now and then the dogs will come up and like, headbutt the pigs and run away, and every now and then the dogs will get caught slipping, and the pigs will nibble on their tail or something, So, but for the most part, everything's been a lot smoother than I thought. They don't really fight. They mostly just kind of try to get to know each other, I guess.
That's great. Yeah, it's good to have like a big, nice family. Baby James is gonna have a lot of people to play with in the house.
Yeah. I try to. I guess he can hear now. Not that he can understand me, but I try to tell him every day. Like he's got this whole world waiting for him to arrive. He's got all these friends waiting for him. So,
be honest. How quick was it to connect with the dogs? Dogs tend to connect with their owners really fast, and I'm sure when they came in, they got used to you. How was it with the connection there?
I mean, it was good. Coming here was no problem because I had spent a lot of time around them when they were still in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them in particular, really took to me immediately. I joke that he's my partner dog because he followed me around pretty much from day one.
He's like your Tintin.
And yeah, and he'll always he'll always sleep because they sleep in the bed. They always have ever since Arya had got them.
Mm-hmm.
And he always sleeps on my pillow right above my head. We call him the little head sleeper.
Which one is it? Is it Cooper or which one?
That one is Axel. Axel's the partner dog.
Mm.
Cooper actually.
This is the wild one. Cooper is the wild one, right?
Well, I mean, they're both kind of wilds. Axel was a stray.
Mm-hmm.
Cooper, he took to me pretty quickly too. And Arya jokes that he's the turncoat because she always took so much pride in Cooper as her first baby, and so now if we sit down and we watch the NHL playoffs or something, Cooper will come and sit on me,
mm-hmm.
or even if he's already sitting with her, as soon as I sit down, he'll come over to me.
Yeah.
He turned.
Yeah, dogs.
But we also joke that Cooper's the governor. My dad actually joked that he's the governor. My dad was visiting and noticed that Cooper will always pretty much spend the day staring out the window and yell at anybody that walks by. And it's like he's running the neighborhood in his mind. So
the protector of the house.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Also, something I wanted to ask you is, how was the first kick when you felt Baby James's kick? How was that like?
I mean, it's weird for the way that it'll go because it's to me, the feeling I don't know if it she could be just taking a breath or having, it feels like a very small tremor,
mm-hmm.
but I know to her, it feels like she's getting drop kicked from the inside out. So, for any aspiring parents out there, I guess be prepared for that. The girl's going to tell you, almost question, how do you not feel this? But to you on the outside, it's going to be way different. But you could see it sometimes too. You could see movements and things like that. And we're still in the initial stages of the final stretch. So it'll just get bigger from here.
That's awesome. I mean, it's all going to be fun and games until Baby James comes out and he's going to take over that entire house. So that's going to be fun to see on, social media and everywhere else. So let's talk about, wrestling for a little bit. Now that everything is slowly opening up, so much is happening. You got MLW coming up. You got New Japan announced their show is in LA, I believe, coming up. A lot of stuff is happening.
The Coliseum.
That's crazy because that's one of your, main places to go. I remember you wrestled with Red against Alex Zane, I believe that was a tag match.
And Aaron Solo, yeah. And the finals of the J Cup was in Los Angeles as well.
Really? Oh.
Yeah. So that was the final night. I was in the big tag match with Liger and Roppongi 3K.
Oh, that was in LA too? Oh, okay, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, that crowd loves you. So that's gonna be an awesome feeling to go back there, feel the love there after Philadelphia. Which honestly, I'm praying for you there because I remember watching New Japan. It was so, and I love that match. I love you and Kota versus Bushi and I believe it was Shingo. No, Evil. It was Evil.
Evil, yeah.
Yeah, man. I love
I
that
mean,
match.
it's a mixed bag now with every place because the I guess the digital fandom is seeing all one thing, So like, it used to be like if I was in LA, a lot of times, no matter what, it was always like hometown reaction. Sometimes it still is. Like I remember even like my last few Staples Center appearances, they would still have chance for me being a very clear bad guy. But then, even at the finals of the J Cup, it was maybe like 70-30 for me. Mm-hmm. But then there was like a loud 30% that are like, maybe they're not from LA or something. It's like a lot of the New Japan events, I'll get a lot of fans from not LA. Yeah. So then a lot of them won't like me. So maybe they're from Philly. I don't know. So sometimes it'll be a mixed bag. But I'll do say like a PCW or something in LA, and then it's a homecoming again. So it's a mixed bag. LA is a funny town like that, but a lot of places are like that where the bigger cities, especially and the bigger events where they'll get like fans from other places. And this one I anticipate it'll be a mixed bag, which I think it's better when it is, because then it's a little bit of everything, and the entertainment tension is super high. Sometimes it's really hard when everybody just universally loves everything. Yeah. If everybody just like, if it's all just one big love fest, sometimes it's kind of hard to create, the art that we're going to create. It's good to have some tension, but these like New Japan events now, especially like in the US, like I anticipate it's always going to be a mixed bag of people from all over, especially a big one like this where it's like they're trying to do like a bigger venue that can hold thousands. So it's like, come one, come all, and like, bring it on. So, we'll see how it goes.
All right. That's awesome. Let's talk about Philly for a little bit. That's a sold out event. Man, like I said, man, I got it. I'm going to watch it. Hopefully, it won't be like a whole crowd of, boos because, New Japan it was hard to watch. It was very hard to watch.
I mean, I hope it does. I'm a bad guy in MLW, so
are you still? Because it wasn't. That's another thing with MLW. It's like your story kind of left, and then the whole new draft came out. So it's like I have no idea if they're just gonna pretend like that season didn't matter in the new season type of thing. Because they got Azteca Underground now. There's a lot in the new roster, So there's a whole thing there.
I mean, I assume I'll pick up where I left off. You never look back. When you change, you roll with the evolution and continue with the bounces. So, I'll assume that's the role I'll be playing, which would work. I mean, there's probably not a better place on earth for me to wrestle and perform in front of a live crowd, given that character direction, than to be in Philly. Yeah. So, but I mean, I enjoyed it just as much when I was in New York and Philly for those New Japan shows, because it's just natural tension. Most performers can't create that if they wanted to. Yeah. Most performers would kill to create that, and they can't. So, for me, I'm lucky that people just give it to me. Here. Half of us love you, half of us hate you. Do what you want with it. Like. Great.
It's a funny story you brought up New York because, I was in there and I was actually on the same crowd, the same row from when you, after your match, when you basically, middle fingered one of the fans. I don't know if you remember that so long ago.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
I was literally right
I got there. Some great pictures of that moment sent to me. I remember that.
Yeah, I remember. It was just awesome because, like, I was cheering for you. Hopefully, a lot of people were too. And I remember there were two guys who, they were basically like booing a lot of the faces because they were big heel fans. And at the time,
a lot of the baby faces did have trouble that night. I remember. I mean, I had assumed for myself, and I was first out the gate, so I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty much what I thought it would be. But throughout the night, a lot of guys had trouble. I mean, like, you know, Yoshihashi had trouble.
Yeah.
Kota had some trouble too. Like
Okada
a lot of guys
too.
had a little
People
bit of
went
trouble.
crazy for Naito. Okada, I thought it was gonna be a huge chance for Okada. Not as loud as Naito. That one was like everyone heard that one.
Yeah. But you know, sometimes that's good. I mean, like if I feel like, you know, as talent and Ren Narita's incredibly talented, and I think he's gonna be a huge superstar. But as talented as he is, like American fans, especially American New Japan fans, I mean, they don't really know a lot of the young lions, you know. And if Ren had wrestled any other guy that night, it would have been like, oh, here's a young lion. Let's see what he can do. Oh, he's really talented. Oh, he's going to be really good someday. And that might be the extent of it. But wrestling me in front of that crowd, he might have well as been Tanahashi. They didn't want anybody to win more than they wanted Ren to win that night. Like, they didn't want Naito to win more than Ren. They didn't want anybody to win more than Ren. And that's the beauty of having that tension. So I think a lot of people, they think, like, they assume, and maybe they're right for a lot of other performers, like that it's like a blow to their ego or something like that. But for me, you give me that, I think great, because I'm gonna help this guy, and he's gonna be better for it. And I think now people are like, oh, like, holy crap, Ren is awesome. And it might have taken them a few years to see that.
Yeah.
But because we gave them a moment where it's like, yes, please beat this guy. Now it's like everybody discovered a lot faster, I think, that Ren is super talented. So I love when I'm able to have that sort of thing. Philly was a little bit more difficult because, you know, I had Kota with me, and Kota already has like trouble sometimes in the US. Sometimes he's really like popular. Sometimes they go against the grain on him. You know,
it was so bad because they cheered for him. Like, you got the applause for him, and then when you came out, the entire
So then the matches like that one are tough, because then it's like, if we perform a certain way, then we drag him down, and so then I'm kind of stuck just doing two jobs at once a little bit. Singles match is a little bit easier because I don't care. I'll flip roles around back and forth to make somebody else better if I can. But you know, in this case, I was like, well, I could make something work with Evil and Bushi, but I don't want to bury Kota either. Yeah. So I had to kind of take it in the teeth that day, but it's fine. You know, that those types of things, they don't bother me.
All right, that's awesome. You know, I agree with what you said, because Carl Fredericks at the time had a squash match with Lance Archer at the New York show, and now Carl Fredericks, you know, as a graduate, is one of the biggest guys in New Japan Strong. You know, one of the most favorite. So it's amazing to see, like, people who don't really know much, because I didn't know that much of Carl. He only had like a very 2-second match. It wasn't even a couple minutes. So it's like we didn't get to see enough of him to now see that he's, you know, one of the biggest stars there.
Yeah, and I mean, once they really hand him a ball, he's going to be a big star. Him and Clark both, and to be honest, I can't wait for Alex to graduate as well. When he did, I mean, all three of them are going to be really big stars, I think.
Yeah, I believe it. So let's talk about your opponent for MLW, Davey Richards.
Well, my opponent might be this fool that just jumped in the office and ran out. But all right, there they go.
Which one was that?
Davey. We've been doing this infinitely for 18 years now.
Yeah, that famous ladder match. You know, that famous bump that you took there through the ladders. That was because of him.
Yeah. Well, he almost died. Thankfully, I probably got the better of it.
Yeah, so, you know, him returning, and this is his first match in MLW, being the Battle Riot. Is there, you know, any pressure? I mean, I know you're always, like, not worried, not, you know, anything like that. But to verse someone who, you know, making his first appearance, you know, having a live crowd, is there anything that, you know, you could say to him, or even, you know, during the match, just something that you would take away from that experience?
No. Same. I don't know. I can't, and it could be like a huge thing, or maybe for him, it's just, the next chapter of the many that he and I have had. But whatever it is for him, for me, it's, a Saturday or whatever. That's just how I see all of them. I don't think I'll ever see anything as oh my God, this is like the thing, I'm not programmed that way.
Yeah, that's good. That's great. It's a good skill not to really be nervous.
Soldier's mentality, Yeah. You have a job to do, go do it.
That's awesome.
Could be World War II, it could be donating blood, but just do it. That's all it is.
So another thing I wanted to talk to you about, Arya took it to social media, where she had like a question poll thing, and someone asked, what's the first match you're going to show Baby James, of yourself? Is there any match that you actually are gonna show him just because of how much it meant to you? It could be the Cruiserweight Classic, but I feel like, knowing your personality, I don't think that would be the match you would show. I feel like you would show an actual maybe great Great Muta match, or something like you and Okada back in New Japan, something around there.
I don't know. I think I'll leave that up to her, maybe. Because so this will be weird to say on the surface, but I'll explain after. To me, I don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So it's to think of what am I going to show Baby James of myself when he's born, or he reaches an age where he can understand and appreciate those sort of things, retain the imagery and information. And it's I don't really care if he cares about what daddy does for a job. If he's eating his dino nuggets and, I can give him his toys and take him to Disneyland, then great. I'll sign him up for baseball and it's all good. He doesn't have to care, and I hope it doesn't really matter to him, because then he'll be wired like me and he won't, that's one less thing for him to be worried about ever. I hope it doesn't matter to him what dad does for a living. But that being said, if he's ever to see it, that means he's seeing it as me, me as an entity in the world, a character, a figure in history or something like that. And to me, I'm not a fan of myself. So I would leave that up to Arya or somebody else, to, friends and family, to be here, this is daddy. This is who he is, what he does. They can choose that. I don't have a good pulse for what I am as a historical figure, because I don't, when I think of what I do, if I think of wrestling, my name doesn't come up in my head, and my job doesn't come up in my head. I think of Bret Hart, Jake the Snake, and stuff like that. So I love to show him that stuff. Show him Hulk Hogan, things like that. I'll show him wrestling the way that I like it, like Blue Demon and El Santo and just things like that, and see if he just digs it or whatever. And it becomes part of his rotation with cartoons and Ninja Turtles. But as far as my stuff, I don't know. I'll leave that up to the mom.
Yeah, you got a lot to give to the kid, because everything that we like, the Ninja Turtle stuff like that, it's almost forgotten kind of through the iPads and all this. They don't really have it on cable anymore. None of the good shows. Everything else is rebooted now.
I tell you, I'm gonna do a lot more work trying to dig up all the stuff that I grew up watching for him, as opposed to showing him my stuff or just putting it on, Cartoon Network or whatever. I want him to grow up with some classics, and I want him to watch the Looney Tunes and to read, to read Dr. Seuss, and to see the Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters and stuff like that, So it's going to be, all my work is going to go towards finding those things, I can put on Craig of the Creek anytime. So.
All right, I have a small game. I'm going to name a few shows, and I just want to see if you watch them, all right?
Okay.
Dexter's Laboratory.
I used to a bit. I mean, I don't catch it anymore, but yeah.
Well, it's not on anymore. It's nowhere on TV now.
Well, I mean,
gone.
like, yeah, I wouldn't, I haven't gone back and watched them, but yes, I watched Dexter's Lab. Yeah.
Courage the Cowardly Dog? Pink Dog?
Not as much, but I've seen. Yeah.
Okay. Teen Titans?
This is the pig's favorite right now. So I don't really watch it a lot, but I catch it residually.
Wait,
See in the background.
do you mean Teen Titans Go or the original? Like the one that pigs watch?
No, yeah, they watch Teen Titans Go or whatever's on right now.
Did you watch Teen Titans, right?
I have. Yeah, I'm familiar with it. I didn't watch it a lot, but I know it. Yeah.
All right. So yeah. So as long as you put on those shows, it'll be good. Anything, because now they rebooted so many shows. Like they rebooted Ben 10. Did you watch Ben 10, the original, not like these knockoffs? The original, like.
No,
Yeah,
I
that was a little
didn't.
bit later.
I didn't watch it, but the newer one or whatever is also another one that the pigs watch. Pugsley watches that one a lot.
Yeah, so as long as you find those old tapes or wherever they're selling those DVDs now, because I literally can't find it. So you got to work on that, because I'm telling you, my little brother, he's 7. Man, if we didn't give him the iPad, if we didn't give him the technology first, it would have turned out a completely different story. Now his head is always in the computers, watching Twitch streams, watching gamer reviews. Did you ever watch Courage the Cowardly Dog? No, never seen it. Teen Titans, never seen it. That's my favorite show. You're definitely watching it. I put him on the TV. He's like, nah, I'm over
The crazy thing is, if you get them to check something out now, they'll get through an entire library in like a day.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, it took us a whole lifetime to watch the Ghostbusters or the Ninja Turtles, or like it took me a whole lifetime to watch, Rocco's Modern Life or whatever. Like, and you tell a kid now, like, hey, check out, Angry Beavers or whatever, and they'll watch every episode available in like an afternoon. And it's like, and they'll be on, and then they'll be halfway through, I don't know, Lucifer on Netflix or something. And it's like, how do you consume so much content? I don't get it. And they'll have watched 30 TikToks and checked out like 5 or 6 like YouTube reviews of something. It's like, how do you do that in a day? I don't think I've ever watched 6 YouTube reviews in my lifetime.
No, because they'll never know the way of coming home, watching an episode, and waiting next week for another episode to come out. They'll never know that again.
Oh yeah, I know.
That's crazy. So let's talk about the Iron Man match. And before we actually get to the match, it's funny because I had a feeling that you were involved in it, but it was only a small feeling because news articles already picked up on it. They were like, we have a scoop. Impact just taped the match. Insane match. We can't give you any details of who's in it. Just it's a match that people are saying is going to be one of the greatest matches Impact has had. And over again, it's been popping up like 2 weeks before the actual match. I don't know if you've seen it. I don't know if you kept up with any dirt sheets or whatever. But they would never name who's in it. They would never name, when they taped it. They were just like, earlier the week, they taped this match. It's insane. Rumor is that a whole bunch of wrestlers witnessed it. So I was like, okay, it's definitely the Iron Man match because everyone came out during that match. And something I wanted to ask you is, before we get to, the feeling of hearing all those rumors, if you have, was that a gimmick type of thing, or was that actually real respect where a whole bunch of wrestlers came out to watch it, or was that storyline telling?
I don't know what all the production notes were necessarily. Like I knew what our commercial breaks were in the match, which really was probably the highest level baseball you can play as far as wrestling goes. Like to have to do a match that's like has to be treated as live because you have a real clock, and then to do that length, and then to have just that so many amount of like breaks put in where you have to not cut and stop, but like manage it, and then also know that it's going to be aired in its entirety as well, a separate time. So it's like you kind of have to wrestle 2 matches at once. And normally, even for a very long match, you might have 2 breaks. We had 5, 6 breaks or something.
That's a good thing they posted on YouTube with no breaks. So we got the full match.
But yeah, I mean, as far as production notes, that's really all that I kind of concern myself with. I'm sure that they had notes for like, we want people to come out or do whatever. So like I was aware that that's going to be the case in some form. But honestly, like the way that the event went that day, it was not the first day of tapings. So like, you know, you get midway through that run and guys get tired, you know, those second, third, fourth days, you know? So like we were on day 2 or 3, something like that. It was not the first day, and it was the very end of the night. So it was the last thing to do.
Painful.
So I remember thinking, God, like, even if they want people like to do this, there might only be a few people that are here. Like, and I remember thinking completely like, if I was one of the guys, I would just go home or back to the hotel or whatever. Like, but I mean, like almost everybody there, pretty much everybody there stayed, because even like people that weren't on camera, the rest were just right behind the curtain. They just didn't go out for, I don't know, maybe character reasons or something like that. So I was actually kind of shocked and humbled, you know, like if like I wouldn't want to watch me for an hour. So the fact that they did, and they did so, you know, optionally, and they enjoyed it, you know, as far as I know, and just from what they've expressed to me, then, I mean, that was a huge honor, you know, that they would, because I was, like I said, I mean, if it were me watching me, I wouldn't want to do it. I love watching the other guys and all that, but like, I thought, man, I don't blame you if you go home.
Yeah, something that, you know, really caught my eye, and I'm happy because for a long time I've been saying this. You know, a lot of fans now were aware of you through WWE, and a lot of them are booing the character they had to play then. So you leaving WWE, you know, they believe that you took that same character, that same type of energy. So after that Iron Man match, to see, you know, on Twitter, on social media, people like praise you, going, you know, I was all wrong about this. Like a lot of people were now aware of what you can do, because that was not easy, and you know that match was beautifully done, and a lot of people saw the potential that you had, you know, even before WWE, you know, the same energy, just not restricted to what you can say, how much you could do in the ring, you know, and that was one of the greatest things that I got to see. How did you feel about that? Because I know you saw some of the messages. I saw you retweet some. I know I saw a few. How was that like?
Yeah, I mean, when it aired, I didn't catch maybe the first little bit of it, because I think Ari and I were, I don't know, running some errands for Baby James or something when it came on TV. So we got home and the match was, I don't know, maybe a quarter of the way through. We turned it on, and she was in the living room. We had it on kind of in the background. I didn't really watch it all the way through, just kind of, it was playing and I caught some of it. I don't know that I've watched it. I don't think I've ever watched it back in its entirety. And I'll get like some clips and things that are sent to me and things like that, pictures and things. And then I'll look for certain things like pictures and get stuff from the company sent to me so I can post, you know, part of my job, you know, being like an influencer, posting content and stuff like that. But that's really all I've seen, is those little bits and pieces of it. But I've always said, like, so two takeaways from that. Like one, I've always kind of said, like, the same way like Johnny Depp looks at his movies, he always says once he makes them, they're none of his business anymore. They're out there, they belong to everybody else. He doesn't always watch them back. A lot of times he won't, I guess. And then it's like, it's not up to him. It's everybody else's business now. And I kind of feel that way about my wrestling. Like it was advice given to me a long time ago. When you get done, if you know, you don't need to analyze it a whole lot, and it's a simple game. If you made a mistake or if there's something you're concerned with, you know what it was when you did it. So you don't need to worry about it like after, like watch everything back constantly. Like you're not really going to get any more out of it. You're kind of just, I don't know, feeding your ego a little bit. And so, you know, I just kind of am glad that everybody that it was meant for enjoyed it. And more so, especially for Josh, I'm really happy, because a lot of people didn't realize how good Josh is. and I've known that for a while now. And so I was really happy to just be a small part of people discovering that. And on the other side of it, as far as me goes, like, maybe people, I mean, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to what anybody thinks or says or whatever, but like maybe people discovered this was their way of discovering I'm more than just the guy I was in WWE. Like I'm like, there's like a lot better of a wrestler in me.
Yeah.
But it's like the old saying goes, like, or like from the Batman movies, like if you're around, you're either a hero and you can stay long enough to eventually be the bad guy.
Yeah.
And I have been around long enough for that cycle to take place 2 or 3 times. So like, I remember being young and it was like, wow, this kid is really, really good. Wait until he gets a little older, a little bigger, and people discover him. And then I got New Japan, took off like a rocket. I was like, wow, this guy's one of the best guys in the world.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, I got to, TNA, and I was Suicide, and then Manik, and then for a while, just doing TV wrestling, people forget. And then it was like 2015, between TNA and WWE, when I had kind of a year to myself, I had to teach people again, like I can wrestle, because people were like, oh, he's just this side character thing from TNA, and like they didn't know, like it's 10 years before that, like I was doing all this other stuff. So then it's like, wow, this guy can really do all this stuff, and he can wrestle and all this. And then I went to WWE, and it started all over again. Then they're like, oh, he's just a WWE guy, or like, I've been watching him since WWE. And it's like, well, you missed a whole lot of stuff then if you've only been watching him since then. And then after WWE, now it's like everybody's learning that again. So it's like, and I'm sure it'll happen another time, I'll go through it again. So
yeah, no, like I said, it was an insane match. But what I'm still laughing at is how you're dodging these Ultimate X matches. You were supposed to have one back in April, I believe, in the TNA show. There's one in some anniversary that, maybe if you were a second late, probably would have put you into that one. But since you're out of the X division now, you dodged that one. How badly do you not want to be in an Ultimate X match?
I don't necessarily want to do one. I think Arya wants me to do one even less. I have been conveniently, thankfully, dodging the Ultimate X matches. But I don't know. I mean, joke's on me. I had to fight with Josh Alexander for over an hour, so maybe that's worse. You know?
I don't know. I've seen the Ultimate X matches, and I've seen the one that you were in. There's a lot that goes into.
Yeah. I've been in. And I think maybe karma plays a good role in it, because I was in a lot of them in a short amount of time. So maybe it's like I've done my time. Like it's like prison. Like you've done your time. You don't got to do anymore. And a lot of these guys, they haven't done them before. So it's like, all right, well, have fun, like, welcome to Impact. You could do 7 of these, and then you'll catch up to like me and Saban and Petey and the guys that have had to do a bunch of them.
How is it to share the locker room with, a lot of the original guys? Because when you first came in, it was pretty much just you. Petey wasn't there yet. Saban wasn't there yet. How is it to like kind of be like, wow, we literally did like a full circle. We're back at the same point. Because your first match was as Suicide was against Petey Williams, right? And Joey Ryan, if I'm not wrong, the triple threat match. Yeah. And I mean, even back in the day, a lot of my matches as Puma were always with PD and Saban. In like 2003, 4, 5. Throughout all the way until Suicide. And actually, when I had come back recently, a year ago, whenever it was, 2 years ago. Crazy. Crazy. It's already been 2 years. Wow.
When I had first came back, they were here. They just weren't performing yet on camera. So like PD and Saban were around. They were just in the back and working in production and things like that. We're all older now. So like they have, I guess myself as well, we have a lot to offer up here as well as just in the ring. So it was almost awkward, because it's like I was coming back still as like and not that they're not. I mean, they're still, I think, very much in their prime. But like, I was coming back as like a prime full-time performer, and they're they're like doing much more mature positions. Like they have paperwork and a coffee, and they're looking at me like look at this guy. He's got to put his boots on today. And eventually, you know, they got back in the ring. I know Saban was trying to get his legs healthy, you know, and Petey probably was they were just waiting for the right things for him to do. And so now he's got a lot to do. But yeah, I mean, it was really cool to come back and have like the old X division still kind of running the show. And I love it every day. Like when I go back to work, I love being around them. I ride with them a lot of times if I can. Just, you know, you kind of have that bond that never goes away.
Yeah, that's awesome. And since we're on the topic of, you know, TNA, Impact, I do want to acknowledge Manik. I know we talked about it earlier, but yeah, just you got to help me out here because a lot of people, you know, we're all still confused, and it's one of those things where it's like a lot of wrong moves came through that, so we need to get the idea of what's to come for it. So tell me, or the audience first, what was the first idea of Manik in your mind?
Well, I mean, originally I had based the transformation from Suicide to Manik off of the Aswang monster in Filipino folklore. So the Aswang is a shapeshifter, and they're sneaky, and they hunt at night, theoretically, and they're opportunists. So it's a rare occasion, you know, they're mythological things. So like, and they always come in different forms. So it's always going to be different every time you see them. Mm-hmm. And they're problem solvers and et cetera, et cetera. And so that was really what I was kind of building it on. And I had always been a big fan of the Great Muta. Mm-hmm. And especially later on when he evolved into where he had all these different forms and all these different things he can do. And you didn't always see him, you know. And I guess in a way it's kind of funny because it in the early days, Muta was an everyday character. And then it became rare. He was more Keiji Muto, and then he would be Great Muta sometimes. Yeah. And I ended up doing the same thing kind of on accident. But it was, you know, it was really what I was trying to build was another person I'm a big fan of is Prince Devitt, Finn Balor. And Finn's a guy I've known for a long time. We were in Japan together and different places together at the same time. And the way that he created this demon character was what I was trying to create with Manik. Actually, even before he created the demon character, it was they had unmasked me, so I thought it would be great to play a character that was myself most of the time, and then sometimes Manik would appear. Yeah, and the character TJ didn't have control over that, and vice versa. Like it you never knew. It was very random. So it's you know, like a mystery character on Mortal Kombat that shows up when just the right circumstances trigger it, you know? And so that's what it was always meant to be. And so in the beginning, you know, there was a lot of trial and error with, you know, creating what it was and finding an identity for it. And I think finally, recently, the most recent stuff, we're getting a lot more close to what it was always intended to be.
All right, awesome. And what's your initial plan for how they can fix that since they butchered it pretty bad? What's the... I mean, it is what it is, but we can't look back at the past. We just got to look forward. So what are we going to do to kind of change that? How are we going to bring him back?
Hang on, let me plug my
no problem, take your time.
Yeah, I think the thing about it is that like it was blessed. The character's blessed with having a. Hang on one second.
No problem.
So I did cancel the thing out. The character was blessed with having a rare second chance at a first impression. Usually when there's like a misfire or two misfires, you know, in this case, it's kind of hard for people to still kind of be excited or accept it as something that can be special or different, you know, or creative. And and I was won the lottery in that case. It's like that people that enjoyed it still enjoy it, and even for like people that are unsure of it or people that aren't really into me, there's still people that think that there's something there with that, and it's interesting to them. That being said, I think making something more rare is easy. You do it less, and you pick and choose your spots more. So I kind of think finding the right rhythm for it was key, and I think me having built myself into like a figurehead in wrestling, and it's weird for me to say this, but it's like there's not a wrestling fan on the planet that probably doesn't know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not that I'm like a big celebrity to common people. Like I could walk through the mall and not be bothered or anything, but like if you're a wrestling fan, you probably know me from somewhere.
Yeah.
Like an independent wrestling fan has known me for a long time, and a mainstream wrestling fan, like a WWE fan, knows me from the last few years. So it's finally having to reach a point there where me as myself is the thing. It takes a lot of pressure off of Manik having to be an everyday thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you can create a dichotomy there. And I think that's what the key is, And perhaps maybe that's a lot of what was problematic for how WWE viewed Finn Balor in the beginning, was because they didn't know if he had the familiarity to be able to switch back and forth like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's something that it's like, well, if you know him, you know that wrestling fans know him. So it's like, you just have to adjust the dial, like, carefully. So I think that, and being, not in like a WWE atmosphere, I can kind of control the way that the character can have output, and that's better, I think.
Yeah. So, here's the fun question about it. Like you said, Prince Devitt, had that look even before NXT, even before WWE. Let's say this works. Let's say, we get the perfect rising of Manik, the true, prodigy right there. Would you move him to other companies, follow that the way Prince Devitt followed his character, or that exclusively stay with Impact?
I mean, if I had my way, it'd be something that would be universally applicable, of course, And even before when I was Suicide, I mean, there were plenty of Suicide appearances outside of TNA Impact. So it is something that I would love to have be part of me, following me around going forward, like wherever I go. Like I would love to have Manik follow me, as creepy as that sounds. I would love to have that. So, but yeah, that's what I would see.
Yeah, so that's actually true. I remember I watched a lot of Manik Suicide matches where you're into the independents, you're not really in like Impact. This is like one of those independent shows. Since he will come back one point eventually. Would you bring him to independent events? Would you bring him to like the big matches, like title matches, or would you keep him for something else? Like for example, like a good example, House of Glory. You have a story there. You're a champion, but there's also a whole background. Like you had 2 matches already there. You came in. You have rivalries already. Following that story, let's say like hypothetically it's House of Glory. You're following that story. They have their own version of Suicide. They have their own amazing roster. In storytelling, would you bring Manik there since he's like your demon? So through that story, because House of Glory, like one of your friends and partners, Amazing Red, he had a character in House of Glory himself, where he also had to wear a mask and stuff like that. You probably didn't know that, but it was there in the history books. So House of Glory has its own like little stories. Would you ever bring Manik to shows like that, to ones where you come constantly?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the way that it would make the most sense and be most like effective, like from a storytelling standpoint, is that it could happen anywhere. Any place, any time, big or small. Excuse me, I was about to say.
No problem.
Excuse me. Yeah, I feel like restricting it like in certain ways. I mean, that kind of shows the wires, so to speak. You're showing the wires to the puppeteer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that it's something that could, and should appear at any point, no matter what.
when it comes to independent shows, when it comes to like, because I'm just curious, this is all like news to me. When it comes to things like that, do you get to control it? Do they ask you most of the time, or are they just like, we already have it for you, you're gonna do it, stuff like that? How is it usually when you get hired for a show?
Does who ask me?
Like the promoters, like promoters, their job is to get the big.
Sometimes, yeah. Like I definitely don't get as many requests for Manik as I do.
Of course, so
TJ.
not a lot of people know of Manik. That's the issue. There not a lot of people, because people who like a lot of posters, most posters that I've seen love to put your WWE logo, the cruiserweight title, a lot of times. Because a lot of promoters are like, this guy's from WWE, he did this. People tend to forget the past a lot most of the time. It's only like true diehard fans remember a lot from TNA to Impact to Puma. You still get messages where it's like, you were Puma, you were this guy. I'm sure you've seen. So it's like there's a lot of people who don't know the history that you've had.
Yeah, and I mean it can go both ways, I guess. Like, because when I was Suicide before WWE, I would still get a lot more people asking me to be TJ, who they haven't seen in years. At that point in time, it'd be like, you hadn't seen me since Ring of Honor, and it had been like 3-4 years, but they would still ask for that as opposed to Suicide, like 70-30 split maybe. So, but then in this case, like a lot of people would rather me than Manik, maybe because of timing. I don't know. When I was younger, people wanted Puma more than TJ, so it changes a lot. Like, I don't know that there's any one context for it,
Yeah. So that was going back to promoters wise. How many, like, when it comes to shows, like for example House of Glory, since that's the one where I'm affiliated the most. When you go there, is it like, hey, we have things for you, we know what you're doing, or is it like, is there anything you want to do? Like, you had a lot of interesting matches. You had a title match as your first, not debut. You've been there before. It's like your return. So your return match, you had a title match. You won that immediately. After that, they put you in a fatal 4-way. Also won that. Like, when it comes to what you could do there, is it like, do they ask you, or is it like we just have things for you to do already?
So House of Glory specifically, they are a place that's like more meticulously run than I think people would think. Very hands-on, very production-oriented, very art-oriented. So they have a very clear creative idea of what they want to do with everything.
Yeah.
That being said, they're very open to different interpretations. So it's actually a really wonderful place as far as flexibility goes. But they definitely don't start their day with a blank slate. They have a lot of stuff that they start pre-building, and then they'll assume. But they're very hands-on with what they want to do creatively, which, I mean, you don't see that very often. They have very clear view on what they want to create.
That's awesome. And, I say this all the time, and I really want it to happen. Since you're there, since they have their own version of Suicide, it's not like, and the cool thing about it is it's not like every other Suicide you've seen in the independents. This one's more dark. This one's got like more of like the Scarecrow type of look there. They have an actual heel Suicide, other than like one of those, small matches where, Suicide is going up against another wrestler. This is more of like a storyline Suicide. We need to see a match between you and that Suicide. I think you can agree on that at least. I'm sure, that Crown Jewel Championship.
I know it was quite a war the last time, but if my memory serves me correct, the seed has been planted. So
yeah, because but he helped you. Here's the issue: he helped you out in that last match, in my opinion. There was definitely a clear side of who he was on, and then at the second show, him and Tequila had a fight. So, it's possible that he may be looking for the title. That's probably what his perspective was. Or it was he saw something in you, maybe a connection that you guys had before. There's a lot of things you could do with that bond of that storyline. So it's really unique.
Yeah, speaking of the creative art direction of House of Glory, the question is the most important thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, who knows?
That's why I really hope to see type of Manik versus Suicide or TJ versus Suicide type of thing, because I feel like this would be one of your biggest fights, you versus your own shadow in a
Yeah.
sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's Batman versus Nightwing, you know?
I was gonna say Batman
Like,
was the Joker, kind of. I think Suicide represents, the Joker of Impact. He was a video game character. Then he had the whole like, he did a lot of helping. Like he helped people in sense. He was always the go-to character. It's like, hey, we need a foe. We need someone who like can get the job done easy, and that's always the sense. Again, we all have different perspectives on the
yeah,
character.
no, it's yeah. I think that the character has been. I mean, it's provided evolution. I mean, that's with me specifically.
Yeah.
And it provides like different outlets to tell different stories. I think it's easily the most unique character that the company's ever had.
Mm-hmm. All right. So one more thing I want to address before we leave the Impact is Impact's been communicating with New Japan a lot. They, Kojima was there. I know that one must have been like an insane type of crowd reaction through all the other wrestlers in the locker room. I know you're familiar with him. You guys had a match back when you guys were still on tour in New Japan. But also, like, just with the entire crowd of New Japan locker room, they were probably like, oh my God, legend of, New Japan's coming through the door. So it's really cool to see open doors for a lot of companies. And I get this question a lot. When are we going to see you in AEW? When are we going to see you, where else? What's the realistic idea of what this opening door means in your perspective? For yourself, I mean.
So,
for yourself, personally.
I mean, it wasn't that long ago. And, probably just because it's one generation removed, where it wasn't that big of a foreign idea to have these open doors to sister companies and have these cooperations. The WWF at the time, WWF had kind of an open door with All Japan at one point.
Mm-hmm.
They've had Michinoku Pro guys in at different points and stuff like that. WCW also, obviously, they had a big connection with New Japan. So if you're old enough to have watched them, you remember that. If you've seen some of the historical content, like say on WWE 2K, the video games, like they have a lot of the old WCW stuff that includes like their links to Japan. That's because they had a link with New Japan. If you watch the Vice documentaries, Dark Side of the Ring, they just had one on the WCW and New Japan joint show in Korea.
Yeah.
So it's not really that far gone that this used to be somewhat normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that tradition has gone so long without it that they don't know what it's like to not have those lines drawn. And so for me, I just remember what it was like before, and it helped introduce people to certain things, and it gave you a preview of what the future would be. There used to be that, like, Eddie and Benoit and Dean, these were New Japan guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of would see them go back and forth, and then they were the guys commonly matched up with, like, say, Ultimo Dragon or Jushin Liger, like other foreigners that were coming into WCW. And it gave you a preview that, like, man, these guys might be the guys in American wrestling eventually. And that's pretty much what happened. Like, slowly but surely, they were not really New Japan guys anymore. They were only WCW guys. And then pretty soon they were WWE guys, and then they were world champions. And it's like, wow, these guys were just the New Japan guys kind of assimilating into WCW at one point.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the case now, is like people think about dream matches and booking and things like that, what they want to see. I don't think you realize, I think a lot of people don't realize that you're also getting a preview of who might be carrying, like you might be like dream booking two guys together. This guy might be the guest on this person's stage or a third stage that they're connected to. What you don't realize, this guy might be eventually the world champion over here and carry this company somewhere else. And, it'd be this huge, huge thing. you never know. And to me, that's what's most exciting, is that like you kind of get to see a preview of guys that will kind of carry everything going forward, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally hear you. So one more thing I want to talk about is New Japan. You know, that is one of your dreams to go back to wrestle there. Now that you're gonna become a father soon, and things are opening up slowly, they decide to run shows, back in Tokyo, which and getting their full roster back there. Are we gonna see more of you there type of thing, or are you strictly staying in the U.S. a little bit, still due to quarantine or traveling issues?
Oh, I mean, if they were if they had wanted me to go now, I would deal with the quarantine and the travel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind it. Some of the other guys mind it more, I think, because for them, they've been on a longer grind of it, you know? Probably when baby boy arrives, like, it might change some things like that as far as being away from home.
Yeah.
But as of right now, it's more just that, like, visas and stuff can't be processed. So it's kind of like if you were already in, then you're good. But if you weren't, then you're kind of out of luck for the time being.
Yeah.
And I had a visa from, I guess it was two falls ago, from when I went to the tag league in Japan. And then my visa wasn't, I remember them asking too, is your visa still active, like your residency card and all that? And it wasn't anymore by the time the pandemic hit. So then it's like you can't process new ones. Otherwise, I mean, that would have been the plan all along, Super Juniors and, a show here and there. And, some cool stuff that I think ended up shifting over to Strong is, a byproduct of that. So a lot of that stuff kind of came about because of that. But yeah, I mean, that was always the plan previously and during this time. So it's mostly just people sitting at the starting gate waiting for it to open. So
let's talk about New Japan Strong a little bit. Tell me about what goals you may have, as in, like, what is your ambition to be a part of New Japan Strong? What do you mainly want to do there?
I don't know. I mean, I think helping be one of the pioneer guys is already a pretty hefty goal. And it's a lot of responsibility, but I'm enjoying it. Like, at this stage now, like, I started so early that I'm at a unique age where I'm hitting my prime, but also in a position where I'm an elder and like a leader. So it's like, a normal person in their 30s in this business is right in their prime, just kind of really getting started with the best years of what they have to offer. But for me, like, the amount of experience and my time in, it's all, like, I've also become kind of a teacher. And it's something I never thought of myself as, but now it's like something I really enjoy doing. So being that guy, especially in the Strong locker room, and having been in the company before and kind of knowing the tempo and the nuances and things that's expected of you, and helping to teach that and pass that on, and, still be, a performer and, like, one of the stars for the roster, like, that's a lot to juggle, but it's something that I've enjoyed doing. And so doing more of that and growing and being able to contribute, like, coming in at a time where, like, providing more artistic flavor for the company to change up and tell different stories and have different matches with, while still being able to keep the same nucleus in place, just having stuff to add to it. And that's what I enjoy being part of, just because I'm artistically flexible as a performer. So
do you want storylines in New Japan? Because a lot of people do have storylines with factions. Mainly what I'm seeing them doing with you is like you said, teacher, student, you're taking out almost every young lion. You're going up against a lot of the greats. You're having the solo matches. Some of them, you have a second time and it kind of connects, but no real storyline there. Do you want storyline in New Japan?
Yeah, no, I would love that. And I definitely think, like, the past year is sort of kind of put a lot of hurdles as far as, I mean, not even just me, but with a lot of people being able to tell certain stories. It's hard to have consistency with that type of restriction. But yeah, that's absolutely something want to be able to do, and to do more things from an artistic content standpoint. Because I mean, like, I'm already working a volume schedule, so it's like I'm on every show.
Yeah.
And if the gates were open, I'd be overseas as well. And I'm wrestling all these different people, the young guys, the older guys, legends, whoever. Like, so it's like, you might as well be telling stories. So yes, I would love to. I think that it's just a matter of having consistency for like the world and the way that the shows are going to go. So
something I've always wanted to ask you is, did you ever pitch an idea for New Japan that I want to say can't happen anymore, or they just said no to, that you thought would be really cool? Because I remember when we did our first interview way back last year, which is crazy to even think it was already a year, you mentioned a story where you wanted Balor and, you wanted Leo on Raw and stuff like that. And people loved it. I got messages saying, oh my God, I wish that storyline happened. I wish that, because those were all written by you. You wrote those. Is there anything that you pitched for New Japan that you maybe still want to? Or maybe it still could happen even?
No. And the reason being is, like, and I'll kind of explain it more in a second, but the reason why I don't, one, the tempo of the show is different.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a more traditional way of presenting stories, and it happens more organically. So the speed of it is slower than you would see in American wrestling. So therefore, the triggers, it's not something you need to pitch. And the reason for that is because I also have a lot more faith in the New Japan office to create what they want to create.
Yeah.
I've never had the same amount of faith in other places. Not to say I've not had faith in other places to create something, but I have 100% trust and faith in them to create what they want to do and to do it well and to see it through and to think it through, as opposed to other places where I feel like maybe I need to be more hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
New Japan, I've never felt that way. I trust them completely. And on the flip side of it, and one of the reasons why I feel validated in that, and I've kind of had confirmation of my faith in them, is that they've pitched things to me that I really love, and I'm like, yes, I would love to do this.
Can you share that, or maybe it hasn't happened?
I mean, some
yet?
of it's stuff I've already done. Like when I was going to come back originally, I think if the timing were a little bit more lined up correctly, it would have been at the Super Juniors.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, it was like, we're going to do another Super J Cup. We would love for you to do that. And it's like, they know me. It's like, they know that, that's something that is very personal to me, like to be part of a Super J Cup.
Mm.
So it's like, they know that would suit me well. They know that being an LA Dojo Version 1 guy and coming in and being part of like the association with the new LA Dojo, like that's a natural organic bond that they can create. And then they carried that over into the tag league. And then, the final night was in Los Angeles, my hometown.
Yeah.
And so then it's like it was set up in a way for me to like be in the ring, not just with like Rocky. This is like my oldest friend in wrestling, and we're both LA Dojo Version 1 guys.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also in the ring teaming with Taguchi, who was same dojo class as me, same generation in New Japan.
Yeah.
And with Red, who, barring, I don't know, like, if I know he had dealt with some injuries recently, but like Red was meant to be a partner with me going forward.
Mm-hmm.
So then that was a third
Red's
layer
Head
to that.
Adventure, right? Red
Yes.
and Ted's Amazing Adventure? Was that it?
So it's like, well, so yes. So it's like, you have one layer, me and Rocky, another layer, me and Taguchi teaming together, another layer, me and Red starting to team together. And then another layer being part of Liger's farewell tour and teaming with Liger on like one of his last US appearances, and the last time he would wrestle at a J Cup.
You wore the white gear for that
tournament.
one, right? You wore the special white gear for that match. It was the
No. This
it's
one
a
I wore
different
the
one?
black and silver because I was wearing LA Kings colors because we're in LA, which is another layer to that story point. So like they were able to tell like 4 different stories with me in one match, like 5 different stories in one match, and then I win the match. Like there's so much that was accomplished in 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how brilliant they are at making something out of nothing. Like they took so many minor elements and created something that like there's so many narratives that worked in my favor just in that short amount of time. And nobody loses in that scenario. Everybody had a good match. Everybody had a story to tell. And it was a great night, a great show. And like things like that is an example of why I have so much faith in New Japan and the office to create what they want to create, because they can take the smallest of things and think it through to create something awesome, even just for a moment. And they can think long term and see it through to the end. Like they're brilliant in that way. And so I've never felt the need to have to pitch to them, because they'll come to me with these pitches, big and small. Like, we'll re-debut you here. We'll do this match. We'll do this partnership. We'll tell this story. You'll take this loss. You'll get this win. And like everything makes sense. And it's like, wow, I trust you. Just take me where you want to go.
Awesome.
I'll take the wheel when you want. Just tell me where we're driving, and I'll take over the wheel. You know.
That's really cool to hear. So we are almost at the end, but I do want to talk about MLW for a second. Have you been pitching ideas for MLW? Have you been giving them the best heel perspective that you can be? Because a lot of people, when it comes to heels, and I learned this from watching a lot of interviews, talking to a lot of people. Jake the Snake even said it, where it's like, they wanted me to write stuff. They wanted to write my own stuff, but I pitched them ideas with my snake, with this and that, and it was 10 times better than anything because I know the best heel that I can be. So it was similar to that, and I'm sure you know and have a lot of good ideas as a heel version of yourself, because the closest we got to that was WWE, and that was all written for you in the short term. So, for MLW as a heel, are you gonna push that by pitching some ideas of your own?
So with MLW, it's kind of like in regards to what we were just talking about, that it's a little bit of both with them. So, I don't have to pitch a lot of stuff to them because they give me a lot of freedom when I'm creating. Like if they express a scenario that they want, like, hey, we need this interview. They won't write it for me. They'll just tell me it's an interview. This is the setting. Can you create it however you want? Just give us this tone.
Yeah.
Done deal. I can do that. So a lot of times I don't have to pitch something, and then the things that I do pitch can be more like smaller, detail oriented. So like I have pitched some stuff to them for like upcoming like direction and stuff, and it's not terribly creative. Just certain elements that it's like, can we incorporate this or change this to this and whatever, and they're always receptive to it. So I don't pitch as much to them. And for a lot of the same reasons as New Japan, I don't feel like I have to pitch, because they'll come up with stuff that is very outside the box. And if I don't like it, it's fine. I usually don't have a problem with it because they don't give me too many details. They leave it up to me to create that. So then it works.
Awesome. And another thing I wanted to mention is, we know your goals in Impact right now are to team with Fala, get those titles. One thing I wanted to ask you was, because wrestling is so big now, the independent scene is so big, have you and Fala talked about maybe merging your schedules, kind of doing independent shows together as more of a tag team? I know you already have so many shows on your plate, and I know like promoters message you, on random, and you see what dates you have available. But have you and Fala had a conversation in the sense where it's like, hey, let's win other titles in other companies, make our name even bigger, make the Filipino name, the tag team brand even bigger?
Yeah, we've talked about going everywhere together. That is what we would like to do going forward. We both wish that we didn't separate in Impact for a brief period, but yeah, that is what we've talked about going forward. We haven't organized anything together. There's a couple things that we tried to, but it just didn't match up very well. And then, yeah, there's, maybe a dozen dates independently that I have coming up just in the next few months alone, not counting Impact, New Japan, MLW.
Yeah.
So there's a dozen just third-party shows that I have in the next 3 months, maybe 2-3 months.
Anything in New York?
Nothing in New York yet. I'm looking at my whiteboard here.
I can wish.
But I do have some stuff in the Northeast, like Washington D.C., Philly.
What's in Philly? If you can share, what do you have in Philly? Is it the MLW one?
Well, MLW's in Philly. I think there's a couple other things that haven't been confirmed yet, and then maybe Boston as well coming up. But that might be more towards the end of the year. But yeah. I mean that's the plan. We just haven't organized any third party stuff yet.
All right. Well, I mean, I know because I see on Follow posted Russell Pro. He's got a tag match, so maybe you can talk to him. Russell Pro's in Jersey. I think it's in New Jersey. He's been there for a while, so maybe we can get a tag match there. Bring the Pinoy boys there. Yeah. What's the new tag?
That's what we want to do. Yeah.
What's the new name? What name are you giving yourself? The Koyos or what's the name?
I mean, I think everybody's kind of named us the Kuyas, and that's whether Impact wants to acknowledge that or not, that's where we are. So
yeah, you guys are both a little bit of rebels because you guys are releasing your own merch, not on Impact's shop type of thing. So you guys are really pushing this to be more of an independent thing and on a televised thing. So for a long time you've been in the singles game. You really want to jump to the tag team division now.
Yeah, 100%.
Have you ever won tag team titles with a known tag team partner before?
No. It's part of the reason why I thought it'd be something I'd like to do. Something I've always wanted to do, and I did a lot of tag stuff in Mexico and stuff before, and obviously recently, like with New Japan and things like I've done. Last year or two has been really like the generation of tag stuff for me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's something I want to do just because I haven't really done a lot of it.
Awesome. All right, that's cool. It's going to be cool to see, what moves with the Koyas, to see what's next there. I'm excited to see it. So before we do end, I want to talk about a little bit of merch. What's going on with the merch? Any news? Any big news anywhere there?
Well, speaking of Fallen, we do have a design that we're going to drop soon. I almost dropped it like a few weeks back, maybe a month ago. I wanted to do it together with him, and I think he wasn't ready to set up how he wanted to do it. But we have something that we designed together we're going to drop soon. So there's that, and then I think I have another new design for New Japan coming up, but that might be a month or two away.
I wanted to ask, Master Republic, I know you have somewhat of a deal with them there, like a conversation where you have shirts, merch, whatever. Have you guys talked about anything else coming up? Because they have a lot there. They elevated in a big way where they released figures, they released statues kind of thing. I was curious if there's anything there, any conversation there with them.
I don't know what's next, but I know that they had worked on a digital store through, I think, Amazon or something, and then they had done a short kind of quiet release of some stuff of mine, along with like Lucha Brothers stuff and some other things. I don't remember where last we left off. I know they just did that Lucha Libre cookbook, and I was in that as well. So they have a lot of different projects that they're working on. And I know that we had worked on some advanced planning for some future stuff, but I don't know if that was based on some of the old designs or some of the recent ones or not. But there's always something new coming up with them. I know that they have several different merchandise projects that they're working on at the moment.
All right, well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. It was such an... Oh, one more thing, actually. Sorry, before I cut it short. One more thing I wanted to ask. Ari was at the FSW show. Was that Baby James' basically his first show that he went to, basically? Does that make...
Yeah, the FSW show would be technically the official first show for Baby James.
How was that? Because that was the first time you had your family there, watching you wrestle, and how was that? How was the feeling there to have the locker room sense, or just going to the crowd and seeing them?
Business as usual, I guess. It was 1,000 degrees in the building, so there's that. But Otherwise, I mean, business as usual. It was nice to have the baby boy and mom around. So
That's awesome. All right. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you everyone for listening. See you guys next time.
all right, thank you very much for having me, Eric. I'll see you next time. All right.
All right, man.